Greetings, greetings. Salam alaikum. Alafia. Peace to my gods and earths. Free the land. Uhuru. Sakpase. Que pasa? Chihatamo. What's up? Greetings, family. Again, welcome to another episode of Grunt TV. I'm your host, Malik Shabazz. Before I go any further, I just want to remind everybody out there, please subscribe, mash that like button, and don't forget to share. And also leave your comments, because we read all your comments because they are important. Another thing I want to say is that this space is dedicated specifically to all black and brown communities who are seeking truth and honesty in a world of chaos, and all those others who also seek the same thing. And at the end of each podcast, I got a segment called Solutions, which I will be providing some solutions to all those out there who always say, Prophet or Malik, they know me as Prophet on stage because I'm a poet. They say, Prophet, you always talking about the problems, but you never talking about the solutions. Well, I got a solution. I got a response to that, and you're right, and you are right. All those who have made that criticism or that critique, I say yes, you are right, because we got to offer solutions. Okay. On that note, I entitled this particular brief podcast. It's called "Who Am I and Why This Podcast." I felt that it was important for me to tell the people out there who view this particular podcast who I am, so they can know a little bit about me. I believe in transparency as much as possible. Of course, we all have our little private things, things that we don't share with nobody. But overall, I'm pretty much, transparent. So why this podcast, and who am I and why this podcast? Okay. I was born with a slave name. I was born Jose Antonio Berrios. I was born in the Nation of Islam. I was born in 1964, and my father joined the Nation of Islam in 1963. My father wasn't just rank and file. My father was FOI, the Fruit of Islam, under the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his national spokesman and leader, Malcolm X, also known as Malik El Haj El Malik El Shabazz. Malik El Haj El Shabazz. So who am I? So I was born in the Nation of Islam. I was born in the South Bronx in Lincoln Hospital. I lived in the South Bronx, so I think I was about 8 years old, maybe a little younger. I gotta confirm with my parents. But about that time, my father took our family, and we moved to Queens Village. And that's where I pretty much grew up. That's where I was raised, my young years to my teenage years. And being that my father was FOI, he pretty much ran the house like a military, very strict and everything, and when you call, especially as men, when we get to a certain age, we start, rebelling, we start thinking our own thoughts. So at the age of 16, I pretty much, couldn't deal with the rules and regulations that my father laid down for the house and for me. And so I bounced, I broke camp, and I ran the streets. I was fortunate enough to have really, really good friends, which I'm still friends to this day. So it's a shout out to Kid, Ski, Chili, Joey, Steve, Prosperi. Who else am I missing? That was a GHC crew, and they basically looked out for me a lot of times. I ended up staying with my boy Chili. His moms took me in, and then Joey Escobar, my other homeboy, his moms took me in, and so I was fortunate to have that kind of safety net. So, but I still, but being not being under any type of law, because they really couldn't tell me what to do, only to a certain extent, in terms of respecting the household and everything. I pretty much did what I wanted to do. So I ran the streets for a long time, and then it got to the point as we got older, everybody started graduating from high school, or my boys started joining the military. I was one that I didn't want to join the military, so I pretty much ran the streets for a while. And then when I reached the age of 22, I saw myself heading toward a wall, and so I had to make a decision what I was going to do. I was either going to end up in jail or dead. So I needed to do something. and I wanted to make my mother proud. I wanted to let her know that I'm doing something, with my life, that she doesn't have to worry about me and stuff like that. So I wound up joining the military. I joined the United States Marine Corps. I enlisted. I went in. My first day was December 7th, 1987. And when I decided to, so that I did my tour. I signed up for 4 years, and I was deployed to the invasion of Panama in 1989. And then in 1990, I got deployed again to the Gulf War. So I'm a two-time combat veteran. My job in the military was infantry, which I hated. I hated my job. So after 4 years, then the not the recruiters, but the people in the military, they come to you. They say, "Listen, your time is about to be up. What do you want to do? You want to re-enlist, or you want to get out?" And I remember very, very, like if it was yesterday, that when that happened, when that time came, I was stressed. I couldn't sleep because I didn't know what to do. I know one thing: I didn't like the military. So another 4 years of dealing with military life, and some of the people in there that are over you, that they could talk to you all kinds of ways. I couldn't, that made me sick to my stomach. But then if I got out, what was I going home to? Like, I had nowhere to go. I had no place to live. I had no job. I had no money saved. I had no education. The only thing that I learned in them 4 years was how to kill. So the only job available to me when I came out as the military was either security or police officer. So after, maybe a week or two, whatever, just being stressed out and not knowing what I was going to do, because initially I wanted to be in the military for 20 years, because I figured if I did it for 20 years, I'd be out like by the time I was 43. I was still young. I had a 20-year pension. I got money coming in. I don't have to worry about the job too much because I got money coming in. So those are the plans that I had initially. But, sometimes the plans don't work out the way you want them to work out. So I decided to get out. I reasoned to myself and I said, you know what? I know the streets. I got more room to maneuver. I could hustle in the streets. I got game. So let me hit the streets. And so I got out. And the first couple of, basically the first 2 weeks when I came out the military, I was literally homeless. Like, I had no place to go. I went to my parents' house for like 2 or 3 days, but they had 2 or 3 days. They had just sold the house. They was moving to Florida, and after that, I was on my own. So I was homeless. And then it hit me like a freaking atomic bomb. The reason when I joined the military, I was homeless. I didn't have a job. I was unemployed, and I was uneducated. And then when I came out the military, I was homeless, I was unemployed, and I was uneducated. And I said to myself, damn, I went through 4 years like a time warp, and here I am back in the same situation I was in that I tried to escape from 4 years earlier. And then I said to myself, I gotta be doing something wrong. This can't work like this. I gotta be doing something wrong. And that's when I began to read. I started a job doing security. I worked right across the street from the World Trade Center from 4 to 12. And initially, just to kill time, I brought the New York Times, the Daily News, and the Post to work every day. And I would read just to kill time. Initially, it was just to kill time. But then then one thing, it did kill time, because when I got into the reading, and then all of a sudden I turned around and my relief was there. It was time for me to go home. I was like, man, this is okay. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna just read the paper and keep myself busy for them 8 hours, and But then I started getting into the reading. I really started getting into the politics, reading about the mayor, stuff was going on in the city. I used to read Juan Gonzalez's his column in the Daily News. I used to read a few others, but I forget who they were, because that was like 20-some years ago. But that's how it started. And then I read my first book. And then briefly, I got a call from a friend of mine, one of my sister's best friends. She had told me, listen, I work at NYU and I study at NYU. You just came out the military. They pay really, really good. And you can go to school for free. So I said, okay, I didn't think much of it at the time, you know. So, yeah, I put in an application. I put the application in. One day I came home. They left a message on my answering machine. That's before cell phones. We had beepers back then. This is the early 90s. I got it in 1991, in December of 1991. So in February 1992, I was hired by NYU as a security officer, and she was right. I was getting paid really, really well, and the job was cake. It was easy, and then they said that after my probation time, I believe it was 3 months. You go through a probation period, and and I'll be permanently a security guard. So anyway, so I did that, and then I applied for school to start going to school as a student. And at that time, I was reading a lot of books. I was reading all kinds of books because I got into reading. I got into reading like really, really heavy. And then when I became a student, I joined my first organization, Lucha, Latinos Unidos con Honor y Amistad. And I became the Minister of Politics. And, time went on. And I got impeached. This is like I said, when I was going to school and being a student and working, I was doing a lot of reading. I was reading about the Young Lords. I was reading about the Black Panther Party. I was reading about the Green Beret, the Brown Berets. I was reading about the Black Liberation Army, about Asada and Mutulu and Huey and and all these other all these movements, all these organizations, revolutionary movements. And so I wanted to duplicate some of these ideas, some of the programs that the Panthers and the Young Lords had. And so I started creating some programs in Lucha, and they actually got mad at me. They thought I was too radical because I wanted to go to the soup kitchen and help. Like once, everybody takes a weekend, for just 2 hours and go to the soup kitchen on Saturday morning and help feed the people. And then some of the members from the organization, they weren't too happy about that because they wanted to go out on Friday night and party and drink, which, hey, I wasn't hating on that, but, I felt, damn, the people, they need help, so we should help, a little bit, And so, again, so they got mad at me, so I got impeached. And then me and this brother named Victor and a few other members, they came with us after we got kicked out of the organization. As soon as we came out of that meeting, we went right downstairs to the student lounge, sat in a circle, and we co-founded the Latino Political Action Coalition. It was short, LPAC was the short, the acronym, LPAC, Latino Political Action Coalition. And right there, we founded the organization. We put in an application to the school so we can get us a bank account, some money, because the school gives you like a stipend, so we can put events together, buy food, and pay speakers and stuff like that. We started a newsletter. That newsletter was being distributed within not just NYU students, but it was at Hunter College and Queens College and Baruch College. So we was all over the place. We were just organizing. And then I met Richie Perez and Vincent Panama Alba, both of them who were with the Young Lords Party when they were young men, and I got to meet them, and they had this organization called the National Congress for Puerto Rican Rights. And after hearing about them, because they had put an event together with these Puerto Rican Muslims in Harlem, I got in touch with them, and I joined the National Congress for Puerto Rican Rights, and I became an organizer with them. And I was also a student organizer, so I was working on both ends. And so that was it. That was pretty much it, But I kept reading, kept studying, kept organizing. And then, the years go by, faster than we like to admit, but the years go by. And all of a sudden, it was like 9 years in NYU, and I was like, I didn't want to be a security guard for the rest of my life. But I was getting paid like really good money. I was getting paid really good money. I wasn't really working. I worked from 11 to 7, 11 at night to 7 in the morning, and all I did all night was read. because at night there's no activities, Very rare you see students come back and forth, only on the weekends and stuff like that. But anyway, it was pretty quiet. My nights were quiet, so I did a lot of studying. And I was going to school, so I was studying for regular classes, and sometimes I slacked off on that because I was more interested in reading revolutionary politics. Books like Revolutionary Suicide by Huey P. Newton, To Die for the People by Huey P. Newton, Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver, Message to the Black Man by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was just reading. So anyway, 9 years went by, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. And so one day, I just, initially I loved the job, and then it started to get to a point where I just didn't want to go to work anymore. I started calling in sick a little bit more often, and then one day I just made a decision, said, you know what, I gotta go. I gotta leave this. I don't want to be stuck here for 20 years because it was more, the money wasn't as important as I wanted, as what I wanted to do with my life. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But I knew I had to leave. I didn't know it then, I know it now that the ancestors were calling me. I didn't know it then, but I left. So I left, I called at the job, I called them and said, I'm not coming in today, I'm not coming in no more, I quit. Thank you for the job, I appreciate it, but I'll be back, I'll be there on Friday, pick up my last check, and I'm out. And they were like, okay. So then, a lot of my friends at NYU, they were like, yo, you crazy, man, because nobody would really quit this job. I was making $75,000 a year in 1990, in 1999. Yeah, from 92 to 99. I was making, plus I worked a little bit of a lot of overtime, so I was clocking. So anyway, they thought I was crazy. They said, where you going? I said, oh, I'm going to Miami. You got a job? No. You got a place to live? No. What you going to do? I don't know. Yeah, you're crazy. So I left. And then, when I got to Florida, I told them, first 6 months I'm going to be a beach bum. I'm just going to go to the beach and with a 6-pack of Corona and just chill, and stuff like that. So I did that. But then it was time, the money that I had saved, it was running low. So I said, okay, I got to get a job now. So anyway, I got a job, and then, but I was, as I was, moving along every day, I was looking for organizations to be part of. I was trying to find an organization, Then I met this brother, Mike Martinez, and I joined his Bolivarian Youth. I joined his organization, but eventually I left that organization. They weren't really up to par with what I was thinking and what I wanted to. I thought we should be doing. So, and then one day I'm walking down North Miami Avenue, coming from the office of the security office. Where I worked at, and I saw this sign right outside in front of an African restaurant called, I forgot the name of the restaurant, but the sign said, open mic, Flow Fridays open mic. And I said, oh, I think I seen this poetry stuff back in New York, so yeah, let me just check it out. I took the information down. That following Friday, I went, and the host was like, are you a poet? I was like, no, not really. I wrote a few little poems, but I'm not gonna perform. I mean, I don't perform like that. I don't write with the poets that were performing. Like, I was nowhere near that type of on that level. So he said, what if you change your mind? Just let me know and I'll put you on. I was like, I don't know what it was. I built up the courage, and I did my little poems. I got my little hand clap. But then a poet by the name of Diane Perez, she got up there and she did this revolutionary poem, and she was talking about the Panthers and all that, Malcolm and all this stuff. I mean, she was just ripping it, and the way she put the poem together, she was just boom. I was like, oh shit, that's it. That's exactly what I can do. I can teach through poetry. I went home that night. I wrote my first poem, Black America, and here I am 21 years later, still doing the same thing. But then, when I started writing poetry to go to the different venues in South Florida, I started meeting poets. I met veteran poets like Will the Real One and other poets, Terry Meredith, stuff like that. I met a bunch of them. And I found out that poetry was not just some weekend thing. It wasn't just like sitting, in a cafe on the weekend doing some little poem. Like poetry was big. Poets were actually traveling throughout the United States, recording CDs, selling poetry books. And I was like, I was kicking it with Will. He's like my protege. I was his protege, and I was like, yo, Will, y'all be doing this shit? Y'all be getting paid for this? And he was like, yeah. I was like, yo, I want to do that. So, I went home, I wrote my first poem, I did my first album, but then I got dissed by the same host of Flow Fridays, my very first open mic. She was like telling me that she couldn't make me a feature because I was too political and nobody would come. And I was like, well, Brother Haru's political. He's a poet, badass poet. He don't live in the United States anymore, but he was there at the time. I said, Haru's political. He gets mad love. She goes, yeah, but Haru's smart. So I said, oh, that's how it is. You don't know me from a hole in the wall. You don't know what I'm about and how smart I am or not, or how smart I'm not. But anyway, so I started doing my own thing. I started, learning from different poets and recording my CDs and traveling. But then I found out that I couldn't really, it was hard for me to subsidize my CD sales in order to get to the next state to do my next show. So I needed something else. So then I went to IFAC, International Fine Arts College, and I started studying graphic design. And after going there for 2 years, they changed up all the rules on me and everything, and they told me they couldn't give me no more student loans and everything, so I had to pay the rest of the time to get my degree. So I told them to fuck off, you're going to tell me to go to school for 2 years, now you won't give me a degree because I ain't got no money. If I had money in the first place, I wouldn't have to get the student loans. So I told them to fuck off, and I just basically, I made a lot of friends in them 2 years. I stayed good friends, and I called them up and said, how do you do this on Photoshop? How do you do that on Photoshop? This is a little bit way before YouTube and all that stuff. So, so I learned on my own, and I started soliciting myself to different businesses to do fly menus and all kinds of stuff for different businesses and stuff like that, logos. Anyway, long story short, then I started doing that. So, and then, again, I met a brother, an elder, by the name of Kuribiti Shah X Ali Rashid, also known as General Rashid. I met him at a little open, it was a community film night, and myself and two other poets, we ended up going. They were going to show a film on Malcolm. And because the projector was having some technical difficulties, we wanted to keep the crowd from leaving, so we started doing poetry. And that's how I got to meet General Rashid. And then when I met him, he invited me to the People's House out in Woodwood, and he introduced me to NCOBRA, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. And then he introduced me to the Republic of New Africa. And then after being introduced to those two organizations, I quickly joined them, and I've been with them ever since. And so I've been traveling and writing for the past 20 years. Got my poetry, I got one of my books published by Pragmatic Dreams up in South Carolina. That's my book called Descent Behind Enemy Lines. And so then as time moved on, I felt like, like after getting all this information and doing all this reading, I realized that the world we live in and the fuckery that comes out of the damn TV needs to be discussed and addressed. And so now, because a lot of people have become disenchanted with the mainstream corporate news, same bullshit. There's nothing but a propaganda machine for the state, mouthpiece, stenographers for the state. People caught on to that stuff, so people started doing podcasts, independent news outlets. So I've been watching those for a while, and initially I had a thought, my queen Nia, she told me maybe I should do one, but I hesitated. I wasn't sure what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. But after doing a lot of, research and thinking about it, I decided, hey, let me do it. And the reason I started this podcast again is because a lot of truth is being concealed, and even these so-called independent news outlets are doing the same thing to a certain degree that the mainstream media is doing. Let me explain a little bit what I mean by that. Let's take 9/11. It's the perfect example. Okay? There's ample evidence, video, picture, testimony about what happened on that day. Okay? 3 buildings fell that should not have fallen. Okay? We have documentaries like Loose Change and a few other ones confronting the evidence in plain sight. There's a lot of information. And so I said, wait a minute, y'all supposed to be independent news media, and we just passed the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and not a peep from none of them. The Real News didn't mention that it's a possible inside job, false flag operation, and all these other ones didn't say that. None of them mentioned it. None of them, with all the information that we have. And that's when I said, you know what? I got to get on, and I got to tell the people the stuff that is not being told. You know, but my fight at its core is against racism, white supremacy, a system that Europeans created, and then they invaded the world and colonized the world and colonized information and colonized the concept of God, the image of God. And so that's where I'm coming from, because prior to the Europeans ganging up on the world, none of our people, no Africans, Taínos, the Polynesians, none of them, like in my book, in my second book, which is about to be published, right here, right there, let me just put it right there so everybody can see, okay? It's about to be published, you know, a brief history of a people's history and world history, to show people today that the world as it is today, with all this war and poverty and destruction and mendacity, hasn't always been this way. But the people, the rulers, the black bourgeoisie, the racist system, and the black bourgeoisie intellectuals and academics, you know, they basically try to tell everybody it's always been this way, so why try to change it? Okay? But it hasn't always been this way. Okay? It hasn't always been this way. You know, in fact, right now, today, in 2021, there's a town called Palenque in Colombia. It's an all-black town, which I hope to be visiting very soon. And when I watched this particular segment by this brother that does a podcast, I was blown away. Why was I blown away? Because in this town, an all-black town, they ain't got no motherfucking police. And they ain't got no jails. That's right, you heard me right. They ain't got no police and no jails. And I said, black people actually living in peace with no police and no jails? And then the brother was explaining, when there are problems within the community, they got a council of elders who bring the people together and figure out how to resolve these conflicts. So my aim is to tell people out there, black and brown people out there here in the United States and around the world, that we could live in peace, but we have to destroy this system. You know, this system of racism, white supremacy. Now, yeah, it's white people, but the thing about it is that they infected the entire planet. So now you got black people doing the same thing that white people are doing. You got brown people doing the same thing that people are doing. You got so-called yellow people that are doing the same thing. And you got the so-called red people that are doing the same thing. Some of them are doing the same thing that white people are doing, because they poison the whole entire globe. So the goal is to destroy that mentality, destroy that racist ideology, and create something more beautiful and loving and compassionate. That's all. That's all. For our children's children. Because right now, they're fucking raping the earth. They're destroying the fucking water. They're destroying the fucking air. They're destroying the fucking food. They're destroying the body politic. You know? And then you got